over this country, you have a lot of bright, decent, good people. They're saying, you know what? Situation is hopeless. You can't beat the Koch brothers. You can't beat the billionaires. You can't win. I'm giving up. That is exactly what they want us to believe. And I beg of you, do not enter that world of despair. We can win this fight if we stand together.
You can't beat the Koch brothers. You can't beat the billionaires. You can't win. I'm giving up. That is exactly what they want us to believe. And I beg of you, do not enter that world of despair.
We've got a great country, still so young, yearning to be free. And few show the burning kind of bravery to step up and lead with honesty. And we live in a society where money means more than equality. Wealth has trumped our integrity, and families sell out for their dynasties. Well, someone send a prayer straight to Washington and get up out of your chair to do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. 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 And we live in a great country, the melting pot of diversity. But all throughout our history, it's been at someone's expense for our liberty. Well, it's time for a change, gotta rearrange. The system in place is not working. Flawed education, media manipulation, none of this is really serving. Oh, someone send a prayer straight to Washington to get up out of your chair to do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Feel the burn, feel the burn away that which won't serve. Honest voices must be heard. Be for truth, your vote is worth all our freedom bells. And burn away the ignorance that compromises governments. For the people sovereign, ring those freedom bells. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Now we've got an opportunity to be an example the world needs to see. What if our political parties sought to invest in harmony? Well, we've got a dream that all beings know peace, 'cause we all deserve it. Leadership, community, shared responsibility. This way the world is turning, and someone is singing prayers in the heart of Washington. We've getting up out of our chairs to do something. Oh, someone is singing a prayer in the heart of Washington. And we're getting up out of our chairs to do something. Do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Feel the burn, feel the burn. Do something. Feel the burn, feel the burn. 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 Ring those freedom, ring those freedom, ring those freedom bells.
All right. Hello and welcome. We are live. This is the new show, Project Sanity. I'm one half of your hosting duo. My name is Richard, aka Progressive Green. With me, we have Nis, and let me just. We have a great show, and I'll just bring Nis up here so he can wave to the folks. We are trying some new software / broadcasting strategy, so you may see some growing pains throughout the broadcast today, but we want to make sure that we're able to bring you the best content we can, and we feel that using these tools, once we are more familiar with them, will allow us to provide you the best content we can. And so on that note, I just want to give you a quick little idea of what we're going to be doing today. Like I said, we're still under construction. Today we're going to have a guest, Carrie Pennybaker, who's running to represent Wisconsin's 5th Congressional District. and we'll have more about that later when Nis interviews him. And we'll also be talking about some recent headlines. And in addition to that, we're going to cover a little bit more about Cinco de Mayo than you might be hearing on other news outlets. And we're going to talk a bit about my personal experience at the Washington State County Convention and as a delegate and what that was like. And I have some video that I took that I'm going to share with all of us so that we can take a look at what democracy looks like inside an actual event of democracy, I should say, or whatever, however you want to call it. And we're going to keep digging and dive deep into what it's going to take to keep the movement going, whether that means within that framework I described at the convention, or whether we are talking about going into other options, changing parties, creating new parties, things like that. Before we get into all that, one of the first things I wanted to do is I want to give Nis an opportunity to say hello and cover anything I might have missed, and then he'll go into some of our headlines. And so we'll just get him up here for you guys, and there you go.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you to all of you for tuning in for our precarious relaunch. I'm formerly of the Scandinavian Perspective, formerly of BTB, and now here with Richard doing Project Sanity, where we try to put some proper discourse into a conversation that is increasingly becoming a shouting match. And one of the ways we want to do that is both by trying to cover news, but also to cover the more grassroots aspects of the news, citizen journalism, bring you interviews with people that you would otherwise not hear about, and as we're going to hear about later in the Cinco de Mayo segment, get some information that otherwise you won't really have access to. And all delivered in not a non-partisan way, but delivered in a way that does not call you our enemy or call out a war simply because we don't agree with you. So let's start out by the news. Speaking of Cinco de Mayo, Hillary Clinton visited LA today, which attracted a very large group of Latino protesters outside of one of her fundraisers. The group said that she, as of her foreign policy experience, included war, strife, and quite a bit of blood on her hands, and that they in no way could endorse her or support her. This is a far cry from the beginning of Hillary Clinton's campaign, in which she kept saying that she won the Latino vote, and recently she is talking about having hot sauce in her purse like other grandmothers. But it's not something that you will hear about in most mainstream media. We had to dig quite a bit to find it in LA Weekly, but she is not received well in LA, where she, until about a month ago, has been consistently ahead of Bernie Sanders, not in LA, California, but where Bernie Sanders has now overtaken her, and hopefully will build up some margins that he will be able to use at the convention. In other related news about Hillary Clinton, not in the FBI investigation concerning her email server, but in the civil suit against the Department of Justice, in which they are suing under the Freedom of Information to find out if the State Department did a proper and lawful search when they were asked to search for Huma Abedin, if she had had improper contact with information based on some alleged findings that some of her family members in the Middle East have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. It's most definitely a witch hunt, but the judge, one of the judges in the case, who is also a Clinton appointee from the 90s, says that it may be necessary to actively depose Hillary Clinton in this civil suit email case. My bet is she's gonna spin it like she spun the congressional hearings and the Benghazi hearings as another witch hunt, but the optics of a presidential candidate actually being in a courtroom under oath, I don't know how that's going to play, or if people are just going to file it under yet another witch hunt. And today, CNN brought us a story about Clinton in which so-called U.S. officials have stated that, let me see here, to quote the CNN report, some of Hillary Clinton's closest aides, including her longtime advisor Huma Abedin, have provided interviews to federal investigators as the FBI probe into the security of her private email server nears completion. U.S. officials briefed on the investigations tell CNN the investigation is still ongoing, but so far investigators haven't found evidence to prove that Clinton willfully violated the law, the U.S. official says. Now, this does not mean that the case is over, as you can hear the wording that she willfully violated the law. They can still find other grounds, grounds of incompetence, ground of negligence, other things, but there will not. They have so far not found anything as it pertains to her actively pursuing and breaking the law on purpose. Some in the Twitter sphere are now calling the email scandal a dead horse, and that everyone should stop beating it, and that Bernie Sanders' last hope has gone up in smoke. I don't know about all that, but calling it over before the FBI concludes it would be a far cry. This seems more of a, to me, this smells of a rallying cry around her to try and buffer. But we'll see when the DOJ and the FBI come with their final conclusion, which should be within a couple of months. Again, according to the same sources.
Yeah, I think with what you laid out there, I think the overall theme is that's a lot of investigations and a lot of the FBI and a lot of words being thrown around that just generally would not be preferable when picking a candidate to be your nominee. And it seems as though that's been somewhat, like you mentioned, just kind of cast aside, brushed away. It's not a big deal, and called a witch hunt. And I think to varying degrees there is some truth to each of those perspectives, in that it would not be unheard of or shocking for her to have basically done something she shouldn't have and to not end up being held accountable. That's reasonably standard in our political system, I think. So although with this particular thing, the politicians and the alphabet agencies like the CIA and the FBI, they have an often contentious relationship, and so in that particular way, it's also not uncommon, or it's somewhat uncommon. It's usually seen as a big deal whenever things get this serious, like as in the case of General Petraeus and his securing of data. And I've talked to many military men that have said that even just the things that she's already admitted to would get most people kicked out, possibly in prison, lots of consequences.
There are people who actually did a private server who have received sentences for it within the State Department. But, I mean, there are rules, and then there are, rules when it comes to the ruling class. Another thing to be said about this is whether or not you believe impropriety has gone on or not. Even in the most corrupt days of the Tammany Hall situations in New York, the Tammany Hall rules of the glad-handing, backhanding, and where you would buy a toilet seat for $5,000 in the 1920s for a school to siphon off money. Even in those days, if someone was publicly under federal investigation or state investigation, they would all distance themselves. They would all say, okay, you have to drop out. We have to find someone else. Sorry, we can't have this. It's too much. But not today. So if that says more about Tammany Hall or about the current situation of politics in the United States, I don't know. Speaking of the states of the politics, as most people are aware of by now, both Ted Cruz and John Kasich has dropped out of the Republican race, and Donald Trump is now the presumptive nominee. Unless there is a great upheaval at their convention, he will be their nominee. To this effect, the Washington Post did a very thorough and deep article on John Kasich, where it smacks a bit of nostalgia of, oh yeah, John Kasich, yeah, we remember this guy. He is actually a centered person, and over objections from his party, he expanded Medicare and Medicaid and benefits for the poor and the homeless in Ohio. And like he was actually, he would normally be a favorite for the Republican nominee. And I can't say anything to this other than, well, you kind of, both the GOP but also the media has kind of made this bet by refusing to delve into any sort of nuance. And now we are in a situation where the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party is Donald Trump, who, when one of his political advisors started airing out a shortlist for VP, got a slew of responses from some of the biggest stars in the Republican Party, where they most of the big ones said that, for example, there is the Florida Governor Rick Scott was mentioned as a potential candidate, said that he was going to finish his job and he got 2 years and 8 months to go, so he was not interested. And the same goes for, excuse me, I have a bit of frog in my throat apparently. The same goes for several Latino women in high places in New Mexico, for example, and they all turned him down. Now, have you ever heard of a presidential nominee having a problem filling his VP slot?
Yeah, that is pretty unusual. And the irony is, I think this is still, in my opinion, this is still some denial from the Republican Party, in that they are, first off, they're just absolutely too late. The chance to stop Donald Trump from doing what he's doing now was when he was going around with the birther nonsense and all that. When they had the opportunity there to make him look like the clown he was about that, but instead what they did was, around the whole birth certificate issue and everything, they, oh, you know, I'm not going to tell people what to think, or I take Obama at his word, or all those types of statements. And as a result, they allowed Trump to gain legitimacy. And so to turn around and act now as if, oh, you know, we didn't know, or we thought he was a decent guy when we were calling him a decent guy, in like Ted Cruz's case, or, you know, my friend Donald, or when they were all being friendly, when they were worried about what he was going to do or losing his supporters. Now, for them to turn around now and act as though that they're taking the moral high ground by not supporting him still after he's the nominee, is not so much taking the moral high ground, but as just being stubborn about admitting that he has won the popular vote despite the establishment's best efforts to stop him. He is popular in the Republican Party. And maybe they could have slowed him down / stopped him if they took a different approach at the beginning, but they didn't, and so he is representative of a significant portion of the Republican Party, whether they like it or not. And he's going to be, regardless of whether he wins or loses in November.
Yeah, and like when you have South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, South Carolina here, we're talking about, saying that my plate is full. I have great respect for the will of the people, and as I have always said, I'll support the Republican nominee for president. While I'm flattered to be mentioned and proud of what that says about the great things going on in South Carolina, my plate is full, and I'm not interested in serving as vice president. And she doesn't even mention Trump's name in that statement. New Mexico's Governor Martinez had a spokesman reply. The governor has said repeatedly over the years that she isn't interested in serving as vice president. She appreciates that such attention puts New Mexico's in the spotlight, but she's fully committed to serving the people of our state. I mean, the governor of Ohio turns you down. The governor of New Mexico turns you down. And you're fast going to run out of candidates. Ben Carson even turned him down, claiming that he felt like he would only be a distraction in the race.
Well, and I mean, VPs are traditionally attack dogs, and I don't think that Ben Carson really fills that role well anyway. I believe, last I saw a report was that he was on the committee to pick Trump's vice president, though.
Yeah.
So he could always pull a Cheney. Or Cheney. So that is a possibility. I think after a month of Trump beating on Hillary's campaign and Bernie winning in upcoming states like West Virginia and so on, I think that Oregon, and if he has a big win in California, combine that with Trump beating on her campaign, and I think what you're going to end up seeing is that a lot of Republicans are going to start to see that Trump might actually have a chance to pull this out, and they don't want to miss hopping on that Trump train and get run over by the populist movement that sweeps the establishment out of power, potentially. And so maybe Trump goes sour, and I mean, it seems as though Trump's balancing, though, between having saying that he's using the same thing of, saying some things about Hillary, like crooked Hillary and so on and so forth, but then saying, I'm going to be a counterpuncher this general election. So basically, I'm not going to swing at her until she swings at me. I don't think he's actually done that, but he's done a good job of not doing that, but maintaining that perception among the population. So if that's how it's perceived for Hillary, that could trap her in a very tough political position.
Yeah, it could. In other Trump news, just to round it up, we have Speaker Paul Ryan saying earlier today that he cannot yet publicly support or endorse the Donald Trump presidential campaign. He quotes, "I'm just not ready to do that at this point. I'm not there right now." He was then asked. Ryan later said that he hoped to eventually back Trump to be part of the unifying progress, but the first move must come from Trump. And when he was then asked if it was Trump's proposed Muslim ban, or his opposition to free trade, or his call to deport 12 million undocumented immigrants, if that was why he was having problem with supporting Trump, Ryan very courageously replied, "We got work to do."
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
That might take understatement. I mean, this has been a crazy election, so it's probably not understatement. But it's got to be in the top 25 at least.
Yeah. But okay, so let's quickly move on from this. I have some more stories on civil rights, but we'll pick them up on the other side of the interview with Carrie Pennebaker. I just wanted to do a quick update on New York, and then we have, I believe, Richard, you have some updates on voting deadlines and registration deadlines.
Yeah, we can sneak those in real quick.
But right now, I want to finish up by saying that in the Young Turks reports, his name is Jordan Charison, I believe, reports that there will be the case against the Board of Elections is progressing, and that the Board of Election is retroactively going back and looking at the entire voting and party registration history of anyone in New York City who voted through affidavit ballot to decide whether their vote should be counted. So that the story of New York and what the final tally of New York is going to be is not done. So that was just a last update on that situation. But let's not focus so much about past elections. Let's hear you talk to us about when the next elections are.
All right, let's get us queued up here and pull it up. And so what we have coming up for registration deadlines, we have Montana is on the 9th, so about 4 days from now. DC has one deadline on the 16th. If you're in DC or know people in DC, just tell them that it's the 16th. There are some people that may have an opportunity to register a few days later, but better to get it done. Next, I would say we have South Dakota is on the 23rd of May, and New Mexico is on the 10th. New Jersey is on the 17th, and California is on the 23rd. So those are all May deadlines. So if you or somebody you know is in the Montana, DC, South Dakota, New Mexico, New Jersey, or California area, they need to get registered as soon as possible. The earliest cutoff is, again, Montana on the 9th of this month. As far as voting, we have Guam in 2 days on Tuesday. In 2 days, not on Tuesday. And then we have West Virginia on the 10th, on Tuesday, I believe. And then we have Kentucky and Oregon on the 17th voting. And for Oregon, people should know that it's all vote by mail in Oregon. And so people will have already mailed in their ballots. I believe that's actually the mail-in date, not when they'll have the count, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check on that for the details. And then we have the Virgin Islands on the 4th. Other than that, like you said, we will get back to some of those news stories that we didn't mention, but we wanted to go ahead and get prepped for Kari, which I think he is ready. And Nis, are we ready on our side? Or do we have any other things we wanted to squeeze in before that?
No, let's introduce. So with us today, as you bring us both up,